Tens of thousands of football fans came to Highbury. Electrifying.
Yes, guys, welcome back to the instant reaction. Chelsea 2. Sorry, Chelsea 2. Arsenal 3 in the Carabao Cup. Advantage Arsenal in the tie, heading back to the Emirates for the second leg of the semi-final. When?
When is it?
Yeah.
It's not next week, isn't it? The week after?
Week after next.
Yeah.
We're here to respond to the game, break everything down. I'm here with my boy, George. How you feeling, my man?
Deflated. I had an Oracle prediction on. Anybody that had joined us for the director's box, it was well on. Mikel Merino in the box, open, one-on-one on the keeper, and you're thinking, that's exactly who I want it to fall to.
Good stop, from Robert Sanchez. Just looked it up. It is the 3rd of February. Thank you all for joining us live. Let's just get straight into it. Look, we won away at Stamford Bridge. The standards had never been higher for this team, and I'm always conscious of going, okay, we won. This is what we're after. Those sorts of things. We may have things to complain about, but look, headline for me is we're up in the tie, and I think we could go. We will go through maybe some negatives of the game. Maybe we could take more advantage here and there. I don't expect to go to Stamford Bridge and completely dominate and control, no matter the situation, no matter who's there for them, no matter who's in for us or whatever. It's just not going to happen. There's going to be times you're going to have to sit down. You're going to have to weather some storms. I will say this evening, I thought Esteval was exceptional. And sometimes the opposition get to do tactics and have good players as well. So we will get into some, maybe a few tweaks that we'd like to see, George. But I am happy. I'm really happy. How are you feeling?
I'm happy we took the competition seriously. And I think I'm frustrated about the game, and I think that's now back-to-back games with Chelsea where I feel that we've been stretched, and more of a fault of our own than the opposition pushing us into a position to be stretched. And I think that's where most of my frustration comes. I felt like at times we got a bit emotional as far as the fixture and played a bit into the hands of Chelsea in terms of what they wanted, especially in the second half. However, as a whole, I thought that the team did well in order to get a goal and assist for a player that needed it. I thought that we did well in order to take a lead back to the Emirates. I thought we did well in terms of in the second half, really showing some really great progression, mainly from Saliba. I thought that Saliba had a brilliant match and has been doing it for the last 3 weeks in terms of really providing some excellent thrust for us going forward. I thought Ben White had a great game. And there were others that I don't think had the best game. And ironically, it's probably one of the few times I'll say I don't know if Timber was at his best today. Looked a bit slow. His touch seemed a bit off. I think it's a little bit to do with the change, to be honest with you, going to left back, having played so much at right back. The angles are different, so it's not as though he's got some time there. And he does look a little tired because his touch seemed to get away from him a bit too much. But broadly speaking, nothing cataclysmic, more just annoyed. Not just that my prediction didn't come through, but I felt like the tie and the match deserved a bigger lead than 1 goal. And so we were owed a bit more given what we showed. But as a whole, you got to credit Chelsea because I thought they were actually quite good about never giving up. I thought Enzo was actually surprisingly quite good in the match. And Chelsea's forwards did a really good job about trying to find space between our pivot and Zubimendi and Rice and our center backs. The ability to float in behind our pivot and find space routinely was something that I thought we struggled to contain, especially in the first half. But other than that, happy days. It's a win. We take it home. We go to the next leg. And look, we can't be cocky because, Arsenal, as far as semifinals go, under Arteta, are not rife with success. So we take it. Just frustrated. I wanted the hammering. I did. It was there for me, and I wanted to end the tie, especially with their absentees. So it was more frustrated. But
just quickly, I've set something up wrong technically, which is going to take me 30 seconds to change. So let me just come to you for a second. But on this stat here, Mikel Arteta has the best unbeaten record of any manager in history away at Chelsea, having not lost any of his 8 games in charge of Arsenal at Stamford Bridge. It is a place that we like going, but it's never a place that I feel comfortable. And We can't underplay that. We're not in the stadium. We're not the players. We're not Declan Rice with people literally about a meter away from him shouting obscenities and putting in an inch perfect cross. Like it's not as simple. We sit here and we want, and I completely agree. They found far too much joy. Finding specifically players like Pedro Neto and Estevao. I think I felt, especially on our left-hand side, in that sort of gap between you felt it was Rice and Zubimendi. I felt it was when Trossard got pulled out. I thought it was going to be a bit of a game of cat and mouse with the pivot, especially early on. I felt like Rice and Zubimendi were doing really well to shut down Andres Santos and Enzo when they started to play more on the slant. I felt like the game started to change a little bit. Credit to Rossinia for doing that. It felt like a game of what's the you touch I touch. It felt like a little bit like we're going to do this, so we're going to start playing balls over the top. Okay, we're going to respond by dropping someone back. And I did feel their in-game changes were really, really good. So maybe just talk to me about that for a second while I
Yeah, I think, look, the story of the match was, I think, Chelsea finding some space between the lines for us, doing a little bit of pocket play that we could maybe learn a bit from, to be honest with you, in terms of the consistency. A lot of their outlets weren't just long balls into the second balls. There was a lot of times they would drop off and really were able to hold the ball well from pressure, some really big pressure from Arsenal. And in fact, I thought our press was brilliant in the first half, and we were unlucky not to make more of it. Robert Sanchez was not comfortable, and Chelsea were pretty poor in build-up. I look at the Fofana and Sanchez passing was ready for a goal, essentially. Yep. And I think the tactic to push Declan Rice really high as well and have Timber kind of join and be more of the pivot deep is something that worked in our favor, and I think will work brilliantly at the Emirates as well. That's a way to get at Chelsea in the build-up. They don't look comfortable. They don't like it. But at the same token, I have to credit them. They were brave in playing through, like they still maintained it. And when they did play through and find solutions, which they did do at times for us, especially with their ability in the wings, I think was the main issue. Every time they tried to go through the center, it was a black hole. Rice was there to really stop it. But as far as being able to progress out wide, they did find certain joy in that in terms of getting out. However, this is a top team, in the sense that it's top team in the sense more that, they're building, right? And it is a top four side. It is a side against rivals, and it's a London derby. And so those things, sometimes you don't follow logic. There's an emotionality to this. And I really think that was a big through line in the game, if I'm really being honest with you, because I saw some things that we did that I can only describe as emotional. And so, it's why, for me, I think that we may see some things in the second leg that we don't recognize, and not so much because of the opponent. I do think there's something to be said for the amount of times that we've reached a semifinal and haven't been able to close it out with this group. And regardless of the state that you might find your rival in, it is still a London derby against a massive rival. And so both teams will be up for it, regardless of what the table tells you of their quality.
For sure, and I know, no one wants to hear conversations about how good our rivals were on a game like this, but they were. And I think, to be honest, I think the way they played explained a lot of how we played. I think in terms of the relentless running, they, obviously they have the kind of the new manager bounce, if you want to call it that. But I thought specifically the fullbacks were getting after those really, really well. Pedro Neto was, I don't think he's particularly dangerous in possession, but out of possession, he was just after us all the time. Achimpong was supporting Esther really well. They got the ball out to their wingers early and quickly, which is something we don't always do. I thought Andres Santos and Fernandez, as I said, once they'd adjusted their positioning and sort of worked out Rice and Zubimendi a little bit more, they were finding pockets of space, and they were bringing those sort of wide players into play. I thought Zhu did okay in terms of holding the ball up, and then I think they made some decent changes as well. So, yeah, no one wants to hear that, but I think when we're looking at us and we're going, okay, well, why aren't we creating wave after wave of attack? It's because once we'd got them pressed in, they left, let's say, Zhu, and they just kept playing it, and he started to win some balls. Then you can't sustain that. Okay, then we're going to try and build up a bit more. Okay, well, then they're going to go full court press on us for 5 minutes, and then once that's been broken a couple of times, they'll drop someone back. At this level, the coaches are so clever, and they know exactly what they're doing, and that's what I was seeing all night. It was like, okay, well, we're doing this, then you're doing this, you're doing this. Let's come to maybe sort of some individuals then, if we come to some stats. I was a little bit concerned about Kepa. I think actually there was a couple of moments, especially some saves from Esteval that I thought were decent. Do you think he can do better on the goals? I'm not. I don't have an opinion yet. I haven't watched it back, but I'm like 95% sure he can do better on something here.
I think the first goal is a lot more Kepa's fault than the second. I thought he could have done better for the first goal. I just think broadly he was bullied in the night, and he wasn't convincing in terms of being proactive. And I think especially off set pieces, he was somebody that I looked at as a weak point and was, for me on the first goal, there's no reason for him to have come out that far. And, he should have stayed on his line. Gabriel had that. We had enough people there. And so for me, he's at fault in the first goal. Him leaving his position there. If you're going to leave, you claim, right? If you're going to be proactive and do the proactive thing, then do it. Ironically, I'm pretty sure Sanchez also wasn't covering himself in glory on their first goal as well. It was quite similar. The first goal faults with the keepers were actually quite similar. Look, the thing with Kepa is it's going to be one of those where we know the level. I really don't think that we concede. And I do think that some of Kepa's passing just went a little bit delayed. He waited just a bit too much for the press, and it ended up into a long launched ball that was more of a 50-50 as opposed to a planned issue in trying to get us out, in terms of finding a Saka, finding a Havertz, finding people. It was a bit more panicky in his release. So there was just a little bit of an issue there, but also Kepa did do well in order to at times collect in the channels because this was a very basketball-y game. So it was going to require him to be on his toes, and he was there. So it's just frustrating because there's a level difference between Kepa and Raya, and you saw it. And Kepa's trying to do Raya things and be the profile that Raya does. He's just not as good as Raya, and we all knew that going forward, and it caused us some problems. So that's kind of where I stood on it. But I do think he didn't have his best game, to be fair.
Yeah, he's just not as good. I mean, that's it. He's just not as good as Raya. It's kind of that simple. Like it's there's no need to overanalyze it. I think for me, Raya comes in for the final. Should we get there? And I think from this position, we absolutely should. And yeah, there were just a number of situations. Even at the end, he either throws it or goes long. It's like 94th minute. We're 3-2. He's going long to Martinelli to give him another turnover. It's like, why, bro? I get it if we're chasing the game, or maybe it's 4-0 and you're like, well, it doesn't matter now. The game's in the balance. You're away from home. Like, just, show a little bit of restraint. But anyway, he's just not as good as Ryan. That's one of those situations. You mentioned Timber. I felt Timber struggled 1v1 against Esteval. I think almost every defender in the world would. That's the level I think Esteval's on. I really do. I think he's a fantastic player. The ability to get shots off from basically nothing is really impressive and something I really want to add to our kind of front line. I think he was struggling with some of the angles, understandably, because he doesn't play there. But I actually felt in the final third with Timber, because of the righty on the left, we were getting some interesting angles. We were getting some interesting passes on the blind side to Trossard. We were getting some interesting balls into Gyökeres and Saka. I actually quite liked Timber in the final third. It felt like it sort of simplified his game a little bit. Sometimes on the right-hand side, I feel he not overplays his hand, but he's a little bit too involved. Whereas on the left, it was like, well, I only have one option really here, and it's to give you the ball. So I quite liked it.
I just thought there was more personality in the pockets with Timber. It seems too much on the right. Most of his game in the final third is an underlap run. Like it's very rare in which we're able to come inside, combine, have like a reverse pass, and that's because he's not on a strong foot. So he's not comfortable doing those things, but that is completely open when you're on the left and, he's coming in, onto his right. I think, look, it was more about approach. And I do think oddly his touch, for me, it was just weird. I felt his touch was off in build up, Timber. It wasn't just once or twice. I felt, and to me, it wasn't anything majorly technically wrong. I just looked at a player that I think was tired, to be honest with you. Struck it that way, at least. Overstretching at times, overrunning at times. Even in the first bit, he receives off the build-up and he's taking a good run, stride forward, and he's overhitting his own dribble, which is something that he doesn't do. And so there was just little things where he wasn't as secure as I normally see him. And that's okay. It's not a major issue. But it was something that I thought was a bit of a worry. And also Gabriel, who I thought has been at times in build-up, his passes just a bit lazy in terms of some of his releases. I think at times we just need to sharpen up a bit on the left-hand side as far as our build-up goes. And you could argue it's just as simple as having Calafiori, who's a completely different profile back there. and his competency in there, which is true. But I thought the left-hand side of our defense struggled with progression, and the right-hand side was brilliant at progression between Ben White and Saliba. And you could argue that's probably expected, given who's the profile differences there. But still, it was enough of a difference for me to be annoyed.
Yeah, I hear that. You mentioned it earlier, and I think we should maybe just zoom out a little bit from the game. Yeah, we're through. We have a goal advantage. We're going home in a strong position. The Carabao Cup, I think my sort of feeling on it, the Carabao Cup, is if I'm sat there before the 6 games, and I've said this on the podcast before, if I'm sat and you're saying to me, do you want 6 games mid-season in the Carabao Cup or this? It's more of a debate for me. Once you've got it through, once we're in this situation, I want to win. Like, we're in the semi-finals now. I'm full gas, and if we win, I'll be buzzing. Like, I think it's a really, really big advantage psychologically to go and win that trophy. You can listen to Man City players or whatever who say, that's the first marker in the season. You win the first trophy, you get that off the back, and then you're sort of stepping forward. I am really pleased with how seriously we took it. I don't think there was any kind of lackadaisicalism. That's not a phrase. I think it's even lackadaisicalism anyway. I was really pleased with the lineup, and I was really pleased with the approach, and I felt as though there was an intensity. I am slightly worried about Forest away so soon after that, because that was a lot of minutes into a lot of legs there. But yeah, just in terms of the approach itself, the strength of the side, the intensity of the game, thoughts on that?
I have a very strong opinion, and it's one that's not popular because a lot of people are constantly looking at the minute impact, and I'm saying to myself, for a team and a squad that just simply haven't won, like, people forget, like, the FA Cup was a part of a different squad with Mikel. This squad that we believe so much in, and I have all the euphemisms for, which is still true, haven't won. The impact of that and winning, in February, to what it can do down the line, I don't think is something that we can even quantify. Like, I believe in it so much, but I don't even think we can, because we haven't seen it. But there is something to be said for winning that trophy early, creating a closure on that duct. And for me, it was utterly important to highlight the Carabao Cup. I think when you face a rival, everybody loves to be involved in those games. I don't think you're thinking about fitness. As far as if you're a player goes, I guarantee you every player is jumping at the chance to be involved in that starting 11 on a game like this, on an occasion like this. And like, players look at trophies. This is what they remember back in their career. They are absolutely looking at this and say, we are 2 games away from me basically achieving one of my life's work. It's winning a trophy. And that is the first thing. And, for me, if we're going to be honest about saying that this is the season of no excuses, then it kind of applies when you reach a semifinal, you freaking win it. You know what I mean? And that's where I was really proud of our professionalism. And a lot of people might be worried about some fitness concerns and turnover. I mean, we saw other teams, by the way, play an FA Cup in which we completely rotated the FA Cup, and we didn't here because this was a trophy in which we're farther in. And it makes sense to me. Other teams put their higher, leg, if you want to call it, demands in the FA Cup. And, I think it was smart from Mikel. And I mean, I do think part of it as well came to do with the suspensions. The doubts. First off, Reece James and Caicedo were not going to be there, but there was doubts on Palmer prior. So I do think there was logic to going strong, win it in the first leg, even beyond the whole win the trophy. It's important for the trophy to win, etc. I do think Mikel looked at it. I said, those 3 absentees, that is a major opportunity to really kill this tie.
And I think that's maybe where some of the kind of bitter taste comes from, because you're sort of going, okay, well, in that situation, could we have pushed it more? So I'm just looking something up, and I just saw some quotes from Ben White, and they're saying they're disappointed with the second half, and it's bizarre. And as I said at the top, I'm always conscious of being like, these are the good times. These are the good times. These are the good times. Don't get caught in this thing of like, oh, we didn't have enough central progress. Yes, I'm not saying that's not true, but try and see the bigger picture. Like, top of the Premier League, top of the Champions League, one up and a huge advantage going to the second leg in the Carabao Cup, looking good in the FA Cup. We've won every single game in the Champions League. We've won every single game in the Carabao Cup. Apart from the Palace game, which we won on penalties, and the FA Cup, and we've lost 2 games all season in the Premier League. like we are in such a good position, and I think there is this. I'm frustrated a little bit by things this evening, and I hear the point around the sort of the Palmer and the rest of it, but just looking big picture, this team is in such a good position. I think what maybe I'm discovering as we sort of go along this season is I'm sort of waiting for this. I don't know, this 23-24 post Dubai era. You know what I mean? I'm sort of waiting for like this kind of big
lift off.
5-10 game stretch where we just beat everyone 16-0, and it's like, this is who we are. I don't know if that's coming. And the reason I don't know if that's coming is because I don't think that's what this group is aiming to do. We're aiming to go the distance in all 4 competitions. That's what we're trying to do. And we are succeeding currently by taking, for example, we take Declan Rice off and we concede straight away. Now, that's frustrating because we come with, we could have had a better second half. But we probably, I don't know, maybe we don't concede that goal if we keep Declan Rice on the pitch. But by the way, he's got 15 minutes back from that game that he can put into Nottingham Forest this weekend. I think there's all of these decisions, the more of the rotation, all these sorts of things. We're going to have games that feel like that a bit more, I feel. So yeah, I don't know. I'm conscious of waiting for this moment that's not quite coming because this team is optimized to go the distance. And I think when we look back at the end of the season, we'll feel like these games, we went full court, but actually when the game was won, we took them off.
I just think that liftoff point, there's nothing better than the trophy thing being killed immediately.
Yeah,
because
maybe that will be the liftoff.
Yeah, because we've gone through a period in which we were so productive against physical mid-blocks between October and November. We did do that. Then we went to a period, I think, in early December, late November, in which we displayed some of our best central progression for 3 or 4 games. Then it kind of stepped off a bit, and we got into a period in which we weren't finishing our dinner, and we're just exiting that little bookmark of it, in which we had a big performance against Villa. It was really great to do it, but really before that, it was a case of us not finishing our dinner, producing something like 9 XG and 1 goal in that time, right? And so I think there's just a little bit of hangover from people thinking, okay, well, you can get a basketball game against Chelsea in the semifinal, but there has been bumpy performances, but good results in the last 3-4 weeks. And there's just something to be said about people wanting confidence. And to me, there's nothing more confident about killing the duct and killing the conversation of the trophy in February. Get that out. Like in a sense, I feel like if I was Mikel, I'm glad we've done it. It seems we've done it, but I would say focus on that. Just put all your resources into making sure that trophy is there. That youthful kind of energy that we had that's approaching prime needs okay, Dad's here. He understands what this means and what this journey is. And that can only come from I've won and feeling that way.
Yep. Scott Willis has not provided us with free stats for our content. How rude of him. So what we're going to do is we're going to turn to the BBC website. Possession, Chelsea 57.7% possession to Arsenal's 42.3. 10 shots to our 17, but 5 on target to our 6. I think that kind of did feel like that. 33 touches in the opposition box compared to Chelsea's 19. They usually have running stats on here, by the way. I'm interested to see that. Equal number of aerial duels 1, equal number of goals saved, 9 corners to their 6. You can look through the shot numbers there, more detail, on and off target, etc. Do they have the running numbers? Sometimes they have the running numbers on these things that it might take a little bit of time.
Those shot totals are pretty good for Arsenal. I didn't actually think about that. I don't know about you. It didn't feel that way, but that's pretty dominant.
It didn't feel like 17 shots. I mean,
tons on target as well, like that.
And 5 outside the box as well, which is not always what we think of as who we are. And there was quite a few that were blocked. I remember one from Martinelli. That Marino, to be honest, man, that
Marino cameo was brilliant.
The Marino cameo was brilliant. I was talking about the shot because that's a great save from Sanchez. It's a really good save. I mean, he's butterfingers, but that was a top save, mate.
Yeah.
So yeah, fair play to them. Right, let's come to your comments to sweep up on everything else. John, you're still gonna have to tell me how to pronounce your surname, mate. Subs were awful today. We saw, what did we see?
I don't know about that. I thought Mikel Merino was brilliant. I thought Martinelli had a really good sub. I thought maybe Jesus and Havertz were okay in total, but I thought Mikel Merino had a very good substitute appearance. I thought Martinelli really covered, again, following up his hat-trick performance. I thought he really did well to keep us forward, really be an option. coming inside again. Like this is something in which I saw him more central in this game. And shock horror, he thrived a bit more. I thought Mikel Merino did brilliantly in build up again, following it up. And I think that's important because I wouldn't say that's something that was, a strength of his previous. That's now 2 performances on the bouts he's following that up with. Look, I think Jesus struggled. I think the game before that, Jesus struggled. And I thought just Havertz was fine. I don't know if I could say that wasn't good. He didn't do anything wrong, but it was fine. But that was kind of what I thought.
Yeah, I mean, Havertz in the midfield is interesting. I don't think we've seen him there for a long time. I can't remember him playing there last season at all.
Yeah.
So I think it would have been 23-24. So it's interesting that we've used him there just as a point of interest. Yeah, he was fine. I mean, I do feel with Havertz, and we all felt this when he was playing 8 before, and that sort of stretch. It's just a bit laboured and it's all a bit under him and all a bit sort of clumsy in the midfield. Whereas up top, he can hold it a bit more, link, spin around and stuff like that. Jesus just doesn't feel quite at the level for me, and that's okay. He's coming back from a long injury. And it's probably going to be another couple of months before we see, we see what he could be, let alone, what he is right now. He even said, I watched an interview with him. He even said in an interview, like, I'm not where I need to be. And he knows that. So I think that's fine. Simple game life. Great to get the win. Now they have to come to the Emirates, which is to our advantage. But for all people to give the goal to, why did it have to be Garnacho? Simple game life. It's right there, my friend. I mean, I just hate the man. I truly do. I just think he's awful.
Is this your Tyrone Mings for me? Kind of thing?
Oh, really? Yeah, just irrational
for no reason.
I have no reason. The only reason I might have, George, is Garnacho used to have his lock screen on his phone was a picture of the FA Cup. And that's the only reason I have for hate. And it's like, fine. I mean, just manifest your dreams. Do you know what I mean? I'm just a hater. I'm literally just a hater. Like, why does that bother me? I have no reason. I just don't like him. I don't know why. There's just players you just don't like, and it annoys you when they score against you.
Yeah.
I think
that
the way he came out of United, and like, I remember watching a video of him pushing a fan, and he's like, I just think, no, not having that. But yeah, look, as Simple Game Life says, George, we are going to the second leg. In terms of when it sits, it's
is that before United? Am I wrong with that?
Favorably. So let me just give you the run of the next fixtures. We've got Forest away this weekend, then Inter away. And this is again back to it. We're going to be starting the instant reaction to both the Forest and the Inter games, going, well, this could have been better. That could. Yeah, it could have been.
It's going to be a slog. It's 4 away days.
It's 4 away days in a row. Like, what are you expecting? What is that? What would that be? 340? I can't do maths. 340 minutes? That's not right. 380 minutes? I'll guess. 360 minutes where we're just absolutely perfect. That was terrible. Jesus, good Lord. 90 times 4. Come on. Take away the 10 4 times. Yeah, like you're expecting 360 minutes where we're absolutely perfect no, and I just don't think it's fair. And I understand it. I do get it. I do get it. But yeah, we just got to get through this period. And we're after the big ones. So Inter away. Then that weekend we have the United game. Then we have that Kairat Champions League game, which I expect.
So it's a little bit away then. The second leg.
Yeah, I expect what we'll do. I don't know how you feel. Actually, let me just get this up on screen so people can see it. I expect what we'll do is we'll go full strength for Inter, try and get a draw, and then I think that's enough to finish first. I think. I could be wrong.
If it is,
I could be wrong. Anyway, I suspect we'll go full strength for Inter and heavily rotate for Kairat, but try and win the game late. United game. Then we had the Leeds game, and then it's the Chelsea Carabao Cup. So we've got like a nice little bounce game here where we can do some resting.
It's weird because the previous 2 are really tough, and then the last 2 are pretty meh. Like, let's be real. Kairat is like a Portsmouth level, and even Leeds. Like, I'm going to be honest. I don't want to be rude, but you know what? You should really be able to rotate versus Leeds and be okay. You don't have to be a complete change like Kairat. But
it should be like a Madueke game. You know what I mean? Like, come on.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But the previous 2, like United Inter, those are tough. Like, those are big games. These next 3 games it's a tough schedule. It's pretty intense, and it would be really nice for Calafiori to come back on one of them. Like,
that would be nice.
Mascara as well. Like it would be nice because that yeah. I don't know. I don't know.
But you know what? I'm looking through, and there are these kind of, Kyrat game, the Wigan game. I'm not taking any game for.
Look, Forest should be
granted,
easier than we make it out. For some reason, Forest have been this like bogey team for us, and but Forest haven't been good. There's been questions about Dyche as well, and it's one of those where like obviously they have been a consistent what used to be Brighton for us. I actually think we've been pretty good with Brighton, but Forest have become a little bit of a bogey as far as, and it's really just the running and transition and turning things into a basketball game. And I think, don't handle it like today in the second half a bit, but for the most part, they should be a game that you're expected to win, in my opinion, especially with the form that they're in.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, fan says, where of yellows, Caicedo and Palmer next leg. Yeah, I don't know
what's the rule on it. Like, if you get another yellow, you out? No,
suspended for the. I don't. Maybe someone in the chat can say who's at risk. I'm not sure it's unpopular. I don't think it should be possible to be suspended for a final. I think that's a completely rubbish rule. These guys work from 5 years old.
Yeah.
And just because they put in a silly foul, like I understand the rule in normal competition, but it shouldn't be for a final. I'm sorry, it just shouldn't. It's not fair on anyone.
It's okay. Palmer will be sick, so we'll be okay.
He'll duck it. Don't worry. The moment Gyökeres scored, see how he's sandwiched between two centre backs. Eye test. Him and Odegaard coming off diminished the press. Would love stats on that. Yeah, I wouldn't disagree. I mean, there were some numbers from Opta Analyst about Gyökeres' run, like pressures, and he's right up there. My question mark about his pressing specifically is the same question I have about him athletically, which is sometimes I think he can take 15 steps when he needs to take 12, so it forces an action later. But you literally cannot deny his pressure numbers are better than anyone in the team. So 100%.
Yeah, the only thing is I think he's more of a harrier than the tackler. You know how I always categorize those two within the press? It's like you've got two really good harriers there. And as far as the game plan goes, when you're implementing a high press, that's what you need, right? If Kai isn't available as far as his fitness goes right now, the next best thing, and you could even argue, if I'm really being honest, like Gyökeres has actually come on leap and bounds. And athletically, I think he does give you just slight differences to Havertz as far as the press, but Havertz is just more of a robust tackler. So he has a bit of both. He can harry, but also be the one to tackle and cause turnovers, right? So that's just the difference. But I do think Gyökeres has an ability to really do well, and he's really hardworking. He is. You can't fault the work ethic that Gyökeres has brought.
No, not at all. And no one would. Worried about how easily this mediocre team runs past our midfield. Something has to change. Also, that was completely undeserved and OOC. Out of character post about Gyökeres at half time, but since he scored right after, you have to do it. I'm presuming you mean out of character. I stand by everything I said. He looked completely devoid of confidence in that first half, and he needs a goal. And then he scored a goal, and he looked more confident. So I stand by everything I said.
Listen, I am happy that he's got a goal and assist that he absolutely needed. That's about it. Like we said, there's benefits in the press. There is a distance to go. I just don't think that there's anything wrong with saying that. And I think outside of his contributions, especially in the first half, there was something in which, he was quite ineffective. So I don't think there was anything wrong with that. And I think even after the goal, I mean, there was a bit of pep in his step, but as far as really getting us up the pitch, being a reference or any of those things, I don't think I saw that, to be fair. But, we did sit in a bit more. And, I think really Gabriel Martinelli is the only forward that covered himself in glory, to be honest with you, in the second half, as far as the press went. I thought Jesus Havertz was pretty average. I thought Saka had a pretty average game, to be honest. I was expecting a lot more. I did a big thing in the post in terms of I really wanted Ben White because I thought him on the inside would be brilliant for this game. And I just don't think that he did enough to isolate his man. So Saka could have done a lot better.
Yep. Yeah, look, this isn't the day for it because what did Victor Gyökeres need? If you'd asked me before this game, he needed a goal. He absolutely needed a goal, and he got a goal and an assist. So this is a major step forward for Victor Gyökeres. Was I really happy with everything he did? No. And in the first half, he was really poor outside the boxes again. It was really bad, and I'm sorry. But then he scored. I think he looked more confident, and I would love him to build on this. We get into this sort of, are you with him or are you against him? I'm not with him, or I'm for Arsenal Football Club. That's what I'm for. There were times in that first half, I will say one, when Zubamendi's going wide and he's making that run into the box, that is a sign of a striker to me with no confidence, because he's peeling away to the back post. He's not running to the front post to try and put it in. He's asking, can you find me further away? I need more space. He's not backing himself to just one touch bang. It's things like that I go, that's a striker with no confidence. But then he scores and gets a bit of fortune, which is great, which is what he needed, because he's not had any fortune. And away we go. And I really hope he can build on this. I really, really do, because it can only help us. 11th place, Victor Gyökeres. Oh, not today. Oh, in my rankings. Not today. Would love your take on why we consistently look worse once Gyökeres comes off. I think we look more out of control. But I would suspect, here's what I would suspect. I would suspect we concede more chances because our press isn't as consistent and relentless, I would say, at his best and at our best. But I would suspect we create bigger chances. That would be my feeling from the data.
I think that this is a criticism more of the sub that's replacing Gyökeres, as opposed to Gyökeres having a significant difference. When I look at Kai Havertz's fit, I think that we're going to see the same effectiveness, if not more, in the press, in fact. And I'd argue that the reason that we're looking as though we step off is because you're comparing Gabby Jesus versus Gyökeres, and athletically, the two are nowhere near the same. And that's really as simple as it is. I find that when Mikel Merino's there, like, the press is fine. I don't think that we drop off, but it's about a profile, right? So if you're going to expect Jesus to be as athletic as Gyökeres, then you're kidding yourself, right? That's kind of as simple as it looks to me. In general, I have felt, though, we have just been a bit susceptible to some of the basketball games in general, and not just because of the Gyökeres sub. I just think in general, our ability for our pivot to really lock that down, and I don't think it's Declan Rice. It's a bit more stopping those entries from wide coming in, has been something where I'm just noticing 10s in general pick up space outside of the pivot and find room and being able to drive at us. That's something that I thought has been a little bit consistent, and I'd like to be tweaked a bit. So whether that's the wingers being a little bit more compact and inside, offering support, or having the pivot come outside and have somebody drop in and step up a bit more like our center backs, one of those two things can happen. But I do think that there's been room outside the pocket, just outside the pivot. People in opposition has found joy to drop in those pockets and turn.
And we saw that tonight. And that might be about the front two and the collective distances that we need to have a look at. Aggravating result. Gave them hope and ourselves a harder second leg than we needed. Tired of leaking dumb goals every game. I personally, just on the goals, I'll need to watch them back. The first goal felt like a load of, like, someone slips, then it hits someone's head, and that felt like one of those sort of, like, he does that, then he does that, then, rather than their quality, which I understand might feel frustrating because we go, oh, that's us. But equally, it was
the second goal.
It was just a load of errors, and errors can happen, but they all happened. Like, it was like 5 errors in a row. And the second goal, it just comes off, I think, it's Ben White's head, and it goes to Garnacho. I don't know how. Like, if you look, maybe someone in the comments is a UEFA Pro coach, and they can explain to me. But how you can coach that to not concede that goal where you're deflecting away and it just goes to someone. I don't know how you do.
The only thing I'll say is that Kepa tried to be proactive and wasn't successful, and he got bullied. So as far as us he was a little bit, many times, not even on the goals. Like, I thought that as far as set pieces went, he went for things that he didn't really win. And so he was out of position. That's a complete skill issue. But I'm not going to critique it because he's trying to do what we ask of Raya. And so he's trying to play our game model. So I'm not going to critique you when it's not successful and your quality is just simply less than the keeper you're replacing. I'm just happy that you're doing it and you're not sitting in and ignoring the advice and ignoring the game model and the instructions that we give you. But I think that was the biggest issue as opposed to anything. But the goals were 100% scrappy. Anybody arguing against them not being scrappy, I think, is being disingenuous.
Yeah, I think so. Where were we? I'm Gunnar Ash says, comments here make it seems like we lost. We won 3-2 away from having a cup match derby. This is a great result and lots of positives to take to. Yeah, I mean, look, we're on a 45-minute show, so we're going to talk the the negatives as well, but that, as we hopefully are covering as well, there are lots and lots of positives from this. And I think the overall picture is really, really bright going into that second leg. And credit to Arsenal, as we said earlier, for taking it so seriously. Yeah, could the game have been outside? Maybe, but are you expecting to go to Stamford Bridge and just put them to the sword, for 90 minutes? As I said, I don't personally think so. Kush Agra says, can we look into Saka's shot numbers in and out of the box? Yes, possibly. Saka was a bit quiet this evening.
Yeah, I don't think he had his best game. I think that he was loose in possession. I think he was ineffective as well as an outlet, which isn't something that I'd say every time. And I also think some of his passes were overhit to Gyökeres and to other players as well. Like the pace of pass wasn't as clean as it normally is. So thought it was just an average game from him, to be honest. But yeah, I don't agree with the athletic concerns. Personally, I just thought his technique, ironically, and his resistance to contact wasn't great. So he was just, he wasn't great. He was average. I don't think he was bad. He was just average. And I expected him to dominate. That's the only thing that I was frustrated with, because I thought this was a game and a setup, by the way, with Ben on the outside, that he could really do some damage. And, he performed average when I thought he should perform excellent. And that's more of a critique of me, because he didn't meet my subjective wants pre-game.
Yeah, but
kind of thing.
Still got an assist. Do you know what I mean? So,
yeah. Exactly.
Comes off the pitch with an assist. Thought
I like
Odegaard
that
ran
average.
around a lot. Exactly. Thought Odegaard ran around a lot today, says John Kaliji. Saliba underrated. He's been as good as Gabby, in my opinion, says Mike Watts.
I think he's been better than Gabby this season.
I don't agree before about December. I think since Gabriel's come back from his injury, he's been a little bit up and down. Saliba's been brilliant. I think at the beginning of the season, Gabriel was better. That's my feeling. But I mean, they're both unbelievable.
I thought again, this is another game. Saliba progression wise was just a monster. The thing that he was doing in terms of coming into midfield, that thing that we had a conversation a couple months back, and you have had conversations where you want him to take the game by the scruff of the neck. I think the last 2-3 matches in particular, he has gone a different level as far as taking the game to the opposition, pushing and really driving into midfield, finding space himself. And, I want it to continue. This is what he needs to do, in my opinion. And I'm seeing some things on the ball that I think are legitimate improvements from last season.
I think so.
Him.
He's being braver, as we spoke about.
Yeah.
First, it was a 1-1 Chelsea win, and now it's a 2-3 win, says Patrick. Yes, I'm sure they'll be celebrating the 2 goals that nearly got them back in it. Nearly. Chelsea. We rarely win possession in these big 6 games. Yeah, there is. I would love to look at our possession numbers compared to last season, especially in specific games. It feels like it's slightly
maybe a top
approach.
6 comparison.
Yeah, just like how we've fared possession-wise. That is an interesting point. Odegaard was okay, but I think Ethan would have lit this game. Yeah, he would. That's a very good point, Cole. I think Ethan would have lit this game up.
And I'm frustrated he doesn't get the minute, especially off a brilliant cameo in which he was one of our better players.
Because it's in a basketball game when the ball's going forward quickly, he
quick
can
shots,
take it. And
you're talking.
Yeah.
God, I really wish we had an Esteval. We have one.
Well, the backlift certainly. I mean, the carrying power. I mean, Esteval. Good lord,
he's nutty.
What a force! Oh my goodness, man.
I refuse to talk about any Brazilians because Chelsea just buy the ones that I recommend. So I'm done doing that.
Just don't say anything. Todd's listening. Long term, what do you think happens with the central progression issue / chances? I think it hurts 14 a bit. I'm not sure about this mid being first choice long term. About this midfield being first choice long term. I think we are always going to come back to why don't we access the center a bit more? But look at Aston Villa. That is their whole game model, and they have issues as well. And I think for me, it's an ideological thing where Mikel has decided you go into the center at certain points, but you prioritize keeping the ball. And if you argue with that, that's fine. We are top of the Premier League, Champions League, in the Carabao Cup and FA Cup. So it's a decent argument, at least from Mikel's perspective.
Look, I have more questions about platforming our best players and getting them central and closer to goal more often. It's not that we don't do it. I think we don't strike the balance perfect all the time. As far as central progression, I really don't agree. I think that there's been a lot of things this season that we've improved. A lot of things as far as central progression. Is it perfect? No. Probably could be a bit better. As far as the first choice midfield thing, I can't believe it's been almost 45 minutes and I haven't made a gun-to-gun comparison with Zubamendi yet after that goal. There is things to explore there. And I don't need to rehash as far as some of the differences that an Eze goes. And, it could be a question. We are approaching multiple games. This is another big game. And it's getting to the point at which if it was 2 or 3 games, I'm like, okay, he's doing it for a reason. But we are approaching now almost like he's got 20 minutes in the last 3 weeks, 2 weeks. Yeah. That if you're approaching a month about that, right? It's a valid question. You can't look down on people, and it's
no.
And it's one of those things where he is a completely different profile when the game is getting basketball-y. Mate, I hate to say it, that's not Odegaard's game. Like when we have these things, as much as we sit there and we say there are certain Gyökeres's games, there's Havertz games, and we play the squad commentary, I think we can do that a bit better. And, I hope that we improve that. But I don't think that the team in general has been struggling with producing central progression this season. There's been a major improvement with that.
I think it's been relatively better compared to last year. I still don't think we're never going to be Villa. I think if that's what people are after. So it's like it's an ideological thing. Is basically my position. Mo Powers, I thought Gyökeres' movement looked much better all game. You could tell he was going to score. Could see a goal and assist for the big guy. Certainly agree with that. Look, I this is not the night, but we've been through many times before the stuff outside the boxes and what needs to improve. So I was seeing that again personally, but this is not the evening for that.
For a player that looked lost psychologically, mentally, and out of this group, it is nice to see output, and that's a way for you to be like, Victor, come back. And you only gain credit by doing those things, and it's building blocks and it's building momentum. That's what all it is. So you build upon this, and you build upon it with, some of the other things that we've said that he needs to work on. But this is a building block, and it's really good to see.
Who can we get to be a great backup to Rice, says Never Losing? Like someone who can defend the back line for overall great game. Oh, sorry, new sentence. Overall great game. That blonde twat is so annoying. Until May. I agree with that, Never Losing. Your Rice backup, please, George.
Hello, my name is Lucien Agume. I am here to help. Been saying it so many times.
Look like him.
Actually, another one that is a pretty interesting link that we've had Lucy was that Javi Rera or Guerra. Don't ask me to pronounce them. He's the I believe he's from Valencia. He's that number 8, Spanish 8. He looks that's a very interesting player. I think has brilliant legs, really good all-rounder. In a way reminds me of those like Gini Wijnaldum types, the all-round midfield, the really big legs. Look, of course, Ayoub Bouadi, who we did a brilliant scouted on, is like a dream as far as prospects go. These are 3 players that I think would do a brilliant job as a Rice deputy.
You heard it here first, folks. Final one from Tinstion. Apparently, they won't be suspended for the final. I presume that means you don't get suspended for the final. That would be good if that's the case. I thought you could be suspended for the final.
That's great.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Logical.
Did anyone see Rice in the tunnel having to be held off AirPod Albert? What was that about? No,
I didn't see that.
Rice Albert.
Was this at the end of the game?
Oh.
I mean, he was getting stick from the crowd.
It was at halftime. Hang on, I'll bring it up. I hadn't seen this.
I would have imagined it would have been with Gabriel. Those two like to yap with each other quite a bit.
Competitions. Very animated Gabriel. Tunnel as Arsenal prepare to come out for the second half.
I don't know.
I can't see anything. Maybe I'm blind. I don't know. It's guys. Can I say something? This is elite sport. Emotion's going to go up and down, and this idea that we're going to kumbaya our way to the title is unfortunately not going to happen. There's going to be times in which they're going to call each other effing you know what's, and it's fine. It's not that serious. It's just it's competitive sport.
Yes, we'll finish there. pretty sure my super chat from early was missed. Sorry, we try not to miss any super chats. Cade. I cannot see your super chat, so apologies.
I got you.
Thank you. Gabriel's pressing has been really disappointing. Sorry, Cade, I missed that.
I think athletically, he's just been a completely different person. He's just physically shot.
He did an interview with Sam Obaseki, and he go watch it. He knows. I think he knows he's not where he needs to be. I think he's just building himself back into the groove. Do I believe he's going to get back to 22, 23 levels, or even like that period in 23, 24 where he looked quite good? Probably not. But I do think a lot of it is just the athletic. Like, I don't think people understand, like, to get back to the level of like a Declan Rice, or, I mean, no one can get there, but, you know, if you're on the same pitch as Declan Rice athletically, it takes so long
to get to a
there.
Premier League athlete standard, let alone some of the best in the game. To get to a Premier League athlete standard, I don't think most, and I group myself as armchair critiques and analysts, you look at it, and I don't think people realize the work that gets involved to get yourself to a body fat percentage, and the things that they've got to do. It's like 1% of the human population is in 15% or less body fat. You know that? That's a fun stat. So if you're in that percentage, happy days, you're better than 99% of the human population. But that's a standard that these guys have to be at. A standard. Like, it's crazy.
And I am. Look at me. Thank you all for joining us on the Instant Reaction. A win is a win is a win. We are but we are in a very strong position to go through in that second leg, which will be played at the Emirates at the beginning of February. We've got Forest this weekend. We'll be back for the instant reaction to that. We've got a scouted episode coming up for you. I think we'll have a rewatch episode that Rohan and James are doing on that Chelsea game, so you can go and rewatch that with them. If it's your first time here on the Cannon Podcast, make sure you like and subscribe. As always, thank you, George, for joining us.
Thank you, good sir. I'm glad you do that. We don't do that enough. we like, make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe. It's brilliant to have all you guys
subscribe now.
All those things
now. My livelihood. Thank you all for being here. Thanks so much for watching, and thanks for keeping it Arsenal.
Tens of thousands of football fans came to Highbury. This was one kind of queue the ladies thoroughly enjoyed.
Electrifying. Inspiration.